Welcome back again, Power App enthusiasts, to the Power App tutorial channel. Today we're going to be continuing on our series Power Up Challenge walkthrough for 2024. As you can see, it's going to be the requirements for the model-driven app that we're going to be working on today. And the persona is for the shelter staff so that they can effectively manage all shelter operations. Take your time to pause and read the instructions, but we're going to be working on this, so I'm going to be shifting between this page while we're building the model-driven app requirements. I want you to take note of the tip here. It says consider using Power Effects columns for location field. We already did that yesterday for the current location field, so we've actually accomplished this. All right, but before we go on with the video, please make sure you hit that subscription button and add the notification bell so you can stay updated when we come up with new videos. Also, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Okay, so we are back in our solution, and for the model-driven app, anybody who's built a model-driven app you know that it involves views and forms. We're going to start today with our shelter home, and I'm going to jump in straight to the view. If you go to the instructions, there really are no instructions for the shelter home. The instructions are mostly focused on the animal data table, but we are going to create views for the foster home and the shelter table. And this is just so we can actually view our shelter table well when we open our model-driven app. So for the shelter table, I think I'm going to add the shelter ID, shelter location, shelter name, shelter capacity, and the shelter types. And then I want it to look exactly just like ours, so I'm going to move the shelter name to the right a little. This looks good. And I'm just going to save and publish. Let's change this to sort by shelter name. Okay. And that looks good. Let's save and publish that. And we are actually done with the view for the shelter location. All right, so once it's saved and published, hit back to go back. The next one is going to be the form. Let's start with the main form first. Awesome. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to hide this first. And then for this, I'm going to name it general. All right. So after naming general, let's add some shelter name, shelter location, shelter manager, and shelter types. Something tells me we didn't add shelter manager when we're doing our view. Move this up a little. So shelter ID, shelter name, shelter location. I want to make this general. Anytime you see a space here, just add the label to it so it looks the same. Okay, that looks good, but I do want to move the shelter ID to the top here. Okay, so now we have shelter name, shelter location, shelter manager, shelter capacity, and shelter types. This looks good. Hit save and publish. Okay, so once it's saved and published, hit the back button. And let's go to the quick view form. Because I like to use quick view forms. They are very convenient, especially when trying to display things. So hide that first, and then let's do the same thing we did. Okay. For shelter ID, let's hide this. And then layout should be general. Looks good. This is gonna be our quick view form, and just save this. Okay, so once that's saved and published, go back. And then let's go back to that view. I believe I left shelter manager out of the view. So it was active shelter homes. We didn't add shelter manager. Let's add shelter manager to this view. So just click that in there. You can drag and drop. I usually just like to click on it. And then now let's move this to after shelter location. All right, so now we should have shelter ID, shelter name, shelter location, shelter manager, capacity, and types. Save and publish this again. All right, that looks good. And I believe we should be done with everything involving the shelter table. Let's move on to the next table, which should be the family, foster family table. There we go. And just like before, we're jumping straight into the views. And the first view is going to be active view. I'm going to hide the created on again. And then let's add our foster. First one is the foster claimer name, then the foster location, then the join dates, and then finally the local shelter. Let's hit save and publish. Okay, once it's published, go back and let's go to the forms next. We start with the main form, just like before. I'm gonna hide this guy again. And then we add the foster claimer name, location, join date, and local shelter. I'm gonna move the foster ID up here. Let's see what's going on with here. Okay, yeah, definitely saying general. Here should be saying general too. So the two places I just clicked on are the tab, and if you click on the space right here, just make sure they both say general. And then while this is here, right, before we leave, let's utilize our quick view form. So click on this tab and then change the column to two column. Once you change the column to two column, I want you to click on the component section and click on quick view. And right here, select local shelter and also select information. So the lookup should be the local shelter and shelter home should be the information. And then hit done. And what's going to happen is for every local shelter that's associated with a local ID, the corresponding shelter information is going to be displayed on the right-hand side. And this is how I want the form to look like for the foster family. All right, so once you're done with this, we should be good. Hit save and publish. All right, that looks good for now. If we need to make more improvements, we will still come back to this. And then we jump onto the quick view form. I'm going to hide this. And just like before, we put the foster claimer name, location, join date, and local shelter. And then for the quick view form, you can't really put it up there. So just hide the foster ID. So it looks like this. Remember to make this general. And then come here or click on the tab and make sure this is also general. And hit save and publish for the quick view form. Okay, now we're going to more exciting ones. We're going to the next table, which is going to be our animal table. And just like before, we are starting with the view. Now, we are not going to put all the items of the animal table here. Matter of fact, if you actually look at the instructions that we started with, if you look at the instructions, it says view a list of animals displaying the name, type, shelter status, and shelter name, and then the ability to sort and filter. So for the animal table, the only fields we need to display are going to be the name, type, shelter status, and shelter name. And I'm actually going to keep it like that for the view. So let's just go ahead and do that. Here, remove this guy and look for the name, the type, type, animal shelter status, and then the name of the shelter. Now, we do not have the name of the shelter. What we have is the animal shelter ID and not the name of the shelter. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a calculator column that's going to give us our animal shelter name. And also, we're going to create another calculator column. But for now, I'm just going to save and publish this. Now, one of the beauty of creating model-driven apps is the ability to create calculator columns. I will advise you to really, really take advantage of the beauty of calculator columns. So let's just go ahead and create some more calculator columns for our animal data table. The first one we're going to be creating is going to be the shelter name, so we can get our shelter name. All right, so the display name is going to be animal shelter name, and it's going to be calculator column showing the shelter name from the shelter ID. And just like before, if you want to create a calculator column, go to the formula section. And then I'm just going to copy and paste the formula. This is perfect. Animal initial shelter. The shelter name is the simple formula we need. You can leave it as text and just hit save. That's the first calculator column we're creating today. The second one is actually another important one. We're gonna use it when we are trying to formulate other views, and that's gonna be a column I call in shelter. So let's just create that real quick. Okay, we're back, and the display name is in shelter, and the description is going to be true for all animals whose current location is in the shelter and have not been fostered or adopted. And that's the description. So the data type is going to be formula because it's a calculated column. And then for the formula, we're going to use if starts with animal current location S dash in quotation marks. So if you go to the current location field and we have an S dash, it's indicating that it's in a shelter, and it's just going to tag it as true or false based on the formula. All right, once you're done with that, hit save. Okay, so now that we're done with that, let's move on to our views again. And then we're going back to our active view. And so for our animal shelter, I'm just going to take this out, remove this guy. And now we're going to add our animal shelter name. Awesome. And that's one of the beautiful parts of using calculated columns. You can literally use it to solve a lot of dilemmas when you're creating your forms and views. All right, so this looks good. It satisfied the first requirement. Let's save and publish that. Yeah, I do want to, I don't like sorting by ID. I think I prefer sorting by name. Let's sort by name. I actually believe it's one of the requirements, the ability to be able to sort by name, sort by type. But I'm going to sort by name for here, and then we can save and publish. Now, while we're here, I do want to create another view. So I'm going to save as, and I'm going to name this view. It's going to be called available animal infos. And the description is to show all animals whose current location is in the shelter. Let's save that. Now for this view, we're going to make it a little bit special. So click on edit filters and let's make sure that we're sorting first based on, we're filtering based on the shelter field. So click on edit filters, pick it's in shelter, which is the new calculator column we just created. And then make sure it says yes. So we are looking for all the animals whose current location is in shelter. Awesome. So based on our formula, these are all the animals in the shelter right here. I do want to add some more columns for this view. So I'm going to add the medical conditions and the medical treatments. All right, so this view is going to have microchip ID, the name, the type, the shelter status, shelter name, and it's also going to have medical conditions and medical treatments for an available animal info view. All right, once we're done with this, hit save and publish. I want to create one more view based on this, and I'm going to call this view, it's going to be called Clean for Foster Animal Info. I know it's kind of long, but it works for me. You can change it, but the description is it shows all animals whose shelter status is claimed for foster. All right. For some reason that didn't work. I'm gonna try it again. All right, so it finally saved. If it didn't save, you can just go back and go forward. Maybe it's because the last view we created wasn't fully saved. But now we've come back in and I've saved it. And our new view is called Clean for Animal Foster. But it's sorting, it's filtering by the wrong thing, so we have to filter by a different. So just hit edit. This time around, we're looking for the shelter status. And so we're looking for when the shelter status is equal to clean for foster. Perfect. And hit OK. Now currently it's going to be empty because no animal in the table has a claim for foster field. But later on, when we're building the application, you will see this populate. So just hit click, save and publish for now. Go back again. Now we should have an active animal info view, an available animal info view, and a claim for foster view. That should be all on our views. Let's go to the forms for the animal data form. And like before, we're going to start with the main form. Okay, welcome back. Now, I do want to say this is going to be a little bit long because we are going to, not only are we going to create the form for the animal info, but we're actually going to go back and touch up the shelter location table form and the foster info form. But let's get right into this, okay? The first thing I do when I'm creating my model form is I need real estate space. So I'm going to first get some real estate space. Let's see, general, remove that. Click here too. Make sure this is also saying general. And then we have our microchip ID. Let's add our name field. And then we'll add an animal photo. And then animal type. Let's see, date of birth. Age, and sex. This is going to be our field. I'm going to move the microchip up here so it looks good over there. And I want you to click on the inner tab and change the column to 2 column. Make it a 2 column. And if you notice what we used to do before, but for here, I'm going to start with animal shelter name for the second column. And then we're going to put the shelter status right next to it, right underneath it. Then we want the medical conditions and the medical treatment. Next verse date, and then the next verse. Okay. Yep, so this looks good for the first page. It's just going to show the animal details. All right, and then click on the components tab, and we're going to add a new column, tab. Let's rename this tab shelters with slash foster, straight up slash and a foster. That's what we're going to name this tab. And then for the section, we're going to name the section shelter details. All right, so underneath the shelter details, switch back to the columns and then add initial shelter first. And then add the date of arrival. And then I want you to click on the tab, go back and convert it again to a 2 column table. And on the right side, click on the right side and click on the components tab. And this time around, we're going to add in a quick view. This view is going to be the animal initial shelters. And then we're getting the information. And then click done. And what should happen is whatever value gets inputted for the animal shelter, the information will be given here on the below. Now, click on the outer tab where the shelter details is, and I want you to add another column section right underneath that. This new section is going to be called foster details, and it's going to hold, just switch back to the table columns, and it's going to hold the foster claimer name, animal foster claimer, and the date of foster. And just like before, click on the inner tab, change the column to a 2 column. click on the right side, go back to components again, and add another quick view. This time it's going to be animal foster claimer. That looks good. Leave it as information and then click done. Awesome. So now when we come to this tab, whatever animal shelter information is associated with this tab will be populated here, and whatever foster details will be populated here. Awesome, looking good. Go back here and add another column, and we're going to name this column, name it adoption, and for the section, name the section adoption details. And for the tab, go back to the column section and add animal adopter, the date of adoption, and the forever family story. All right, this should look good. So our animal data form is actually complete. Once you're done with this, just hit save and publish. And now we're gonna go back and adjust the shelter table and the foster table again. Okay, so we are saved and published. Let's go back. And we're gonna start with the shelter table first. So we'll go to the shelter home. Start with the form. Go to the form. The main form is what we're looking for. Awesome. So the first thing we're going to do for this is we're going to add a subgrid. So go click on the outer tab and go to the subgrid, and then click on the components section, and I want you to click on subgrid. Now, the best way to use a subgrid is to first click on the show related records, and it will automatically tell you the related records for the table you're looking at. And actually, it got the right one. We're actually looking for animal table, and we're looking for the active animal table. So just hit show related record. If this looks good, hit done. And we should have a subgrid with all the data. I'm gonna relabel this. All right, so I renamed it animal info, and the name is going to be animal underscore info. It's not going to let you put a space in it, so you have to put underscore info for that. This should look good. Click on the components tab, and I want to add a new column tab, and we're going to name this column tab foster. And this tab is actually going to, let's rename the section to foster info. And once you're done renaming this section foster info, click on the subgrid, and just like before, hit show related records. And then this time around, we're looking for the foster family data related to the select records. Active foster family data, perfect. Hit done to grab the foster family data, and then rename the label foster info. Or you know what? Better yet, just hide the label since we already have foster info up top. And then this should be good. So now we should have a general tab that has a subgrid of animal info, and a foster tab that has a subgrid of foster info for the shelter location. This should be good. Hit save and publish. And the next table we're going to work on is going to be the foster claimant table. So let's hit back once it's done. Saving and publishing. Move to the foster family table. Open the forms. Go to the main form. I'm just going to add a section here, a column section underneath, and then we're just going to add our subgrid to that column section. Let's make it easier on ourselves. All right. Nice. And then we name this section. Yeah, we name the section animal info. And then for the label, just hide the label. And then we should be good. So this is all the changes that needed to be made for the foster family form. Just hit save and publish. And I believe we should be done with all the requirements for creating the tables. We've created the forms, we've created the views for all three tables. And I think it's time for us to create our model-driven app. So once you're done filling the forms, doing all the views, let's go to all sections. And I usually like to publish all customizations just so I make sure I push everything through. This might take a while, so I'm going to pause it. Okay, we are back, and all customizations should be published. And let's just create our model-driven app. All right, so the first thing we're going to create is our model-driven app. And we're going to name this app. So the name is my animal shelter demo app, model-driven in brackets. And the description is to create a model-driven app listing all animals in the shelter and just hit create. Okay, so it has been created. We're gonna add, first thing we do is to add pages and go straight to the Dataverse and grab your tables. First table should be the animal data table. For ours, we're looking for animal info. The next table should be the foster, and the one we want is the foster family, and then the last one is going to be the shelter, and what we want is the shelter home. And then once you're done selecting your tables, add to add all three tables. I'm going to rename this guy. Let's rename it shelter details instead. And then let's save and publish so we can actually see how this looks. We are actually done creating our model-driven app. We just need to see if it looks good on paper. And feel free to change the icons. I didn't change the icons on this one because to make the video a little bit longer. But if you want me to do a video on how to change the icons for the model-driven app, I can do a short video on that. Let's just go through the walkthrough. So we have our shelter home view, and it has a shelter ID, name, location, everything looks good. Once you click on a shelter, you can see all the details for the shelter. So the shelter name, location manager, and then underneath that is where the subgrade works. And you can see all the number of animals related to. So for this shelter location, which is the companion critter retreats, they have a total of 10 animals in their shelter location. And for animals that are fostered, they have a total of 6 animals that are being fostered in this shelter location. And that's one of the beauty of using subgrid and relationships in Power Apps. And it's the same process for all the other tables. It's gonna be related to the location. So that's for the shelter home. Let's go to the foster family table. And for the foster family view, it has all the active foster families. If you click on a foster family, You can see the name of the foster family. Now, this view here comes because of the associated quick view for the local shelter. So you can see the local shelter for Alea is S2, and these are the details for S2. And then underneath that are the animals that Alea has fostered. Apparently, Alea hasn't fostered an animal. Let's see if we can find one. Let's try Ava. Okay, Ava has fostered Cooper the dog, which is why you can see an associated animal involved with Ava. All right, then the last but not the least, the beautiful animal info view, which has the active one has all the regular data, remember, but we created two other views for the animal data. The second one was the available animal data, and it has 11 rows. These are all the animals currently in the shelter or whose status is in the shelter or whose location, the current location is in the shelter. So the status could be different, but the current location has to be in the shelter. And then it has additional columns like the medical conditions and medical treatments. And then the final view should be the claim for foster view, which has nothing in here because there's no animal that's claimed for foster right now. Let's go back to our active view and click on Bailey the dog to see what we have. All right, so we have our animal data view and it's looking good. The only thing missing here, if you've noticed, is the animal, the photo, and this is where we are going to create our photos. And the first one is going to be Bailey, I believe. So I have gone ahead and downloaded all the data based on the spreadsheet, and that's why you see them all here. And so I'm just going to pick Bailey first. But this is how we are going to update all the images for all the animals. It has to be done manually. There is no shortcut around it. So pick for each animal photo, each animal, enter the value, upload the picture, and make sure you hit save. Once you hit save, this will be updated, and you should see the animal's picture, and then you can just hit save and close to finalize it. And Bailey now has a picture associated with his name because it's a male. And then for the shelter foster information, you can see Bailey has shelter information here. The quick form is on the side. Apparently, Bailey hasn't been fostered yet, so there's no information for foster, and Bailey hasn't been adopted yet, so there's no information for adoption. And that's going to be the animal shelter view. Let's see if we can find an animal that's actually been fostered or okay. So shelter status is adopted. So she should have more info. But first, let's find Chloe's picture. So Chloe's picture is there. Hit save so that it gets populated on the tab here. And then let's see what we have for Chloe. If we go to shelter and foster, okay, we have more data now. So Chloe used to live in shelter oh 04, Happy Trails Haven shelter where she located. She arrived 6/9/2023. And then she got fostered by Emma Davis, whose foster claim ID is F17 and 7/23/2023. And this is the location for Emma. Now let's see if Chloe. So Chloe did get adopted later on at 8/18/2023 by Eva Robinson. And this concludes our demo for the model-driven app. And remember, for all the animal photos, you do have to input them manually. But once you go in here, upload the picture and hit save, you don't really need to hit save and close, but save and close will close it and take you back here. So either way, just make sure you input all the photos because we're going to be using the photos for creating our Canvas app in the next video. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see you in the next video. If there's anything I missed, I'll cover in the next video. But I believe this is what we have so far, and it should be good. Thank you. Don't forget to hit that subscription button and give it a thumbs up if you love the video. All right, see you in the next video. Bye.